Welcome to the Black Doctor Collective podcast. We as Black doctors are in a unique position. We can change our communities, healthcare, and the world. Of course, we start by changing the way we see and value ourselves. I'm your host, Dr. Shanika Horn, pediatrician and physician coach, travel extraordinaire. I am so happy to have you here and listening. So let's get into it. Hey, have you heard about my upcoming masterclass, Contract Secrets? I'm going to tell you what they didn't teach us in training, which is how to spot and suss out red flags. I'm going to break it down to 3 categories. 1, money blockers, how they're trying to keep us poor. 2, time blockers, how they're trying to monopolize our time. And 3, dream blockers, how they're going to prevent you from pursuing your dreams or make claims to things that you create while you work for them. Why this is not a mandatory part of residency or fellowship training is honestly beyond me, but we're going to break it down. In order to register, you can use the link in the show notes for this episode, or you can use the link on Instagram in my bio. I hope to see you there. Bye. Welcome back to an episode of the Black Doctor Collective podcast. It is our favorite time, which is guest episode time. So this week, we are welcoming Dr. Daa'iyah, who's a resident of Baltimore, Maryland. Shout out B More. She's a physician and adult educator by training. She spent over a decade working as an emergency medicine physician, teaching adult learners medicine, specifically through clinical stimulation. She's an active, creative real estate investor, landlord, coach, and speaker. She's also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Sharing the benefits of real estate and business ownership is her passion area, with an emphasis on empowering Black women in this arena through education, coaching, and building community. She is the founder of Sister Docs and REI, private Facebook group community. You guys should probably try to get in there, of over 800 Black female physicians, dentists, and pharmacist real estate investors. She's the owner of Capital Dynasty, a real estate investing and education business and overall wealth building brand. That's what we're talking about today. Dr. Daa'iyah's real estate focus areas include creative landlording, creative financing, particularly seller financing, and subject to midterm rentals and long-term buy and hold investing of residential real estate. That's a mouthful, girl. Woo! She is a Hello 7 certified business coach with a focus on helping clients start and grow service-based businesses, particularly residential real estate investing businesses. Her mission is to show women of color, particularly other Black women, that freedom and time affluence through business and real estate ownership is readily attainable. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate you because, listen, I have so many things I have to say. So I put a lot of stuff in that bio. So thank you for not tripping over all of that. But I just wanted to share with the people all the highlights of what are important to me.
Awesome. So what the audience may not know is that you and I met through our own coaching program, the Dr. Coach School.
Yes. The
And
best coaching program.
yes, and we have been on a number of retreats and trips together. So at this point, we are friends. And so
Yes.
what we're here is Kiki and Cut Up, because that's what we do.
And
do. And we both love very similar things: travel and luxury and lifestyle and real estate. I'm also a client of Dr. Daa'iyah's, so y'all know we in this program because
I'm
it's
so blessed to serve you.
we are going to talk about that too at some point in this episode. So there's just a lot to discuss. So I want people to know your story because I know the story, but let's tell the people your story so they know who you are also.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, hey, you guys, let me see. Where do I start, Dr. Shanika? I would say I will start back at fellowship. Let's say I'll start there because there's so many parts to my story, and I don't want to hold you too long, as the old folks used to say.
I don't want to keep you.
I don't want to keep you too long. But yeah, I think Probably around fellowship was like a pivotal time for me. I did a clinical simulation fellowship.
I didn't even know clinical simulation was its own fellowship.
Yeah, so a lot of sim directors, that's an ACGME requirement. It wasn't prior to that, actually. So it was actually perfect timing for me to do that fellowship because then I was able to go and work wherever I wanted to go. But yeah, a lot of clinical simulation, like director, fellowship directors, they did fellowship programs. But around the time I did mine, I had just moved out of state after being in the state for 5 years because I did a combined residency. And as I was leaving that state, that I had rented out my first primary home. And the reason why I did that is because I was just thinking when you move away, you just sell your property. And I was looking into selling it and I realized, man, I didn't have a lot of equity because I was able to get just years before, just a few years before, I was able to get a zero down loan. And I was able to buy that property with only $500 out of pocket, like literally all I paid at the closing table or before the closing table was $500 in earnest money. I paid nothing else.
Can we just have a moment? I don't think people can like you said that so casually and so nonchalantly.
I know. That's why I was like, where do I start? Do I start way back there? I don't know.
Okay, just so y'all are clear on what we're talking about. In residency, Dr. Daya
Mhm.
purchased her first home, her first
I was an
property
intern.
as an intern with a zero down loan, you said?
Yeah.
Zero down, brought $500 to the closing
It.
table.
That's it.
So for anybody who is talking about getting into real estate and you have all these mental blocks about why you can't do it, just know where there's a will, there's a way. And we're going to talk about how Dr. Dia also shows people that way. But $500 is crazy. So then you get to the end of your training and you're like, what do I
Yeah,
do with this property?
exactly. So
Do it
you
all
guys,
over.
if you were in my circles right now, you would be like, girl, stop talking about real estate because that's all I talk about. Like I'm a nerd. But back then, I was not a real estate nerd. I just knew that I hear people when they move, they sell their property. So I was going to sell it. But just to keep it real with you guys, it was amazing that I was able to buy it without having to stress about how I'm going to finance it. Because I did have $500. But when it was time to sell it, I hadn't built that much equity up when I decided to move. And so, because of that, it wasn't a seller's market either at that time. So, if I wanted to sell it, I would have had to take a small loss and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal, maybe a few $1,000s just for like closing costs and stuff like that, because the value of the property still would retain its value and actually maybe have gone up a tad bit. So I would have just had to cover like my own closing costs and things like that and realtor fees. And I just didn't want to take a loss. That didn't sit right in my spirit. That didn't even seem like it went with me and my personality. So I was
Mhm.
like, I guess I'll be renting it out. And so I became an accidental landlord. So that was the
Mhm.
beginning for me. And then now I'm moving states away. And that whole year was like crazy. I was studying for two boards. I was working full time as a attending for the first time. I was doing that full time in addition to studying for two boards. But one of the constants was that income coming in every month. And I didn't have to do anything. That was the easiest money I had ever made in my whole life, y'all. And I was making it from like hundreds of miles away. And it wasn't a huge profit, but it was covering all of my mortgage plus some extra. And so someone like I had just left a situation where I was like, man, I don't really have equity. And now I'm in a situation where a stranger is building my equity for me. And I get a little extra every month as well. So I'm just like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. So I knew I wanted to do this with intentionality. Like I was accidental landlord then, but I knew once I finished up fellowship that I wanted to invest with intentionality and be an investor on purpose. When I moved here to Maryland, where I am, I decided to focus on investing and finding a mentorship and help paid mentorship. And so I did find that the first property I came across was this deal where I was able to take over someone else's mortgage. And I think I paid the finder's fee because there was a middleman like in the deal that someone was brokering the deal. But I didn't find this property like using a real estate agent. I found it off market and I paid the finder's fee and some closing costs. And that was it, y'all. Like I was able to get this first rental property. I paid less than 20K, probably like 15K maybe total. This was years ago, so I'm trying to remember the numbers. I'm not trying to lie to you guys, but definitely it was way less than 20K out of pocket. And then I had this rental property that was bringing me an extra $600 a month. Like the rent was covering the mortgage that I took over. And again, that mortgage was not in my name. I didn't qualify for a bank loan. I didn't have to go submit my pay stubs or anything like that. And then I was able to own the property. Like it was owned in my business name. So I owned the deed, but not the debt. And I was like
Okay.
addicted from that point forward. I was addicted.
Can that be like a t-shirt? Own the deed, not the debt.
Say less. I'll make sure we get that done. I'll make sure
I'm
we
gonna
get
need
that
you to
done.
run that as a t-shirt line because I've already heard two things that have me, I already know the story, which is why I'm already like invested in this whole process. But the two things that still stand out to me and still impress me every single time is this concept of both properties you now own rent for more than the mortgage. So there
Oh
is
yeah, I don't
no,
buy properties that lose money. I do not believe in that. We don't believe in that in the Dynasty League, honey.
yeah, that is the key though, right? Because I talk to so many people, like before I even met you, probably before I even joined DCS, I spent a lot of time, a friend and I were talking about doing real estate investing. We spent a lot of time reading and researching and
Mhm.
following blogs and doing all these things to try to get information about what's the best way to invest. Is it short term? Is it long term? Is it medium
Mm,
term? Is it land
yes,
banking? Is it like
yes,
trailer parks? Is it like there's just a million things, right?
yes,
Honestly, the real goal is to be profitable.
yes. Come
It's
on,
not even that
you
I
preach
needed,
it.
honestly, right? Like it's not that I cared any which way about what type of property I owned. I just wanted to make some money, honey. Like
Yes,
that's it.
yes. Oh, Shanika,
So
I
that,
will run around this building. Girl. Don't be in here preaching like this, because that's literally what I'm gonna be getting across. I have
yeah,
a workshop coming up just to help, because people get overwhelmed with everything you just said. They're like, I don't know what to do next. Which step do I take next? Like, where do I go? Do I pick this lane? Do I pick that lane? Do I pick that type of strategy? Do I pick that type of property? Do I pick that city? And I'm just like, Usa, let's just focus. Let's backtrack and focus on some foundational things first, and then we can move forward. And so that's exactly like what I'm going to be workshopping around coming up later this month. So
I
that is
love
so
that.
crazy that yeah.
I love that. I think as physicians, we often have decision fatigue. So even just trying to parse out what's gonna, we spent weeks on it and eventually I just gave up because I was like, this is just too much. There's so many choices. I don't know what to do. I don't know which one's the right
Yeah.
choice for me.
Yeah.
I don't know nothing.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad
Yeah.
that you are doing this course and offering this program because people really just want, we don't want to spend time figuring it out. Let's be real.
Yeah. And that's exactly why at that time, I luckily at that time I was keen enough on myself and in my capacity to know that I needed to pay someone to help me figure it all out. And I think maybe it was because maybe I was just coming straight off of doing 2 boards in 1 year. And like you said, the decision fatigue. So at least in that season of my life, I was keen on investing in someone just to point me in the right direction of how
Yeah.
to even get that one.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because there have been other times in my life where I was not keen on, and I tried to figure it all out myself, and I end up just with trauma that just was unnecessary. But in that season of my life, after I bought that first one here in Maryland, child, like owning the deed and not the debt. The way I talked about it to everybody, I'm sure people were like, "Okay, girl, we have heard you talk about it." But there were so many other people who were like, "Wait a minute, you said what? You didn't have to go to the bank. You didn't have to get a bank loan, and it's not you still the mortgage still not in your name, but the deed is like in your name. I can look it up on public record." I'm like, yeah. And so after a while, it was like people kept talking to me, texting me, DMing me, asking me how I did that. And so I would be trying to message them back like long responses, or I was like, girl, let me get on the phone, let me try to explain it to you, like how I did it. And then after a while, like I kept buying other properties in creative ways that way. And then it just became a theme of me spending a lot of time outside of work, sometimes during work, don't tell nobody, explaining all this stuff to people. So after a while, it was like, okay, I'm stealing a lot of time from work. Maybe if I charge people, then they'll stop asking me these questions. So I just charged something small. It was like $60, $70, something cheap for an hour of my time. And I thought that would turn people away, girl. It did not. They were like, okay, but when can I pay you again? Because I have another question. And then I was like, okay, if I raise my prices, then they'll stop asking me questions. And then that didn't work. So after a while, like flash forward years later, I have this full on like real estate consulting business. Not business, it was a side hustle because I was still working clinically, full on real estate consulting side hustle that just came about by accident. Like I didn't plan that, just like I didn't plan on being a landlord years earlier.
Yeah.
Um, and then once I finally resigned and retired early from medicine, I still work, but I don't work in medicine. Then I had all this time and free time to be able to do this as a longitudinal program instead of just a consulting side hustle. So that's my story. That's how I got into doing this.
Oh, can we talk about that? Hire early for medicine. Wow,
Yes, girl, that's a
wow.
whole nother story in itself, honey, because post COVID,
Yeah.
that was a time, baby. That was a time, especially for us ER doctors.
You have
ER doctors who are who are your listeners, because if y'all
yes.
are, I just want to just send a special just vibe, positive vibes out to you guys because it was serious, Shanika. After the pandemic, I was just sharing a story on my socials recently because it came back up for me about a time where I was like a patient in my own ER. It's so funny. I'm so silly. Every time I think about it, I laugh at myself like, girl, you were stupid because I literally thought I had an organic problem. Like I was having uncontrolled headaches for like months, like literally month, like daily. But in the thick of that, there was a time it got so bad that I was like, I have to go to the ER. And so I'm in my own ER as a patient. They literally like putting IVs in me. My coworkers coming in, like trying not to feel weird because they have to examine. It was just so crazy. The CAT scan was down, girl. I work in Baltimore, so that's not uncommon working in an urban ER. The CAT scan was down. So they MRI'd my brain. Guess what they found?
Nothing.
Not a thing. Not a thing, honey.
I could say
And
nothing
I,
straight
in
off the
my
bat.
mind, I literally,
Yeah.
I laugh at myself now, but back then I literally thought something was wrong with me. Girl,
Yeah.
that was stress. I thought like months later, like months and months later after I had resigned, like I was having a conversation with a friend and she was like, oh, how are your headaches? And I was like,
More headaches.
no headache. And that was like literally 2 months after I resigned. I was like, you know what? I think I had a headache in like a month.
Listen, I'm learning this lesson right now. Let me tell you how I bought myself some melatonin a couple months ago because I was
Mm,
like, I am just like, I'm having trouble staying asleep. Like, I'll sleep for a period and then I keep waking up and then I can't fall
mm.
back asleep. And I'm tired in the daytime. And oh, my sleep cycle must be off, which is crazy because I don't work nights or 24-hour calls like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know what it is, but maybe it's like something with my hormones, or maybe it's something.
Mhm.
You come up with all the like differentials, right?
Yeah, because we
But I'm
know
like,
too much. Because we know too
no,
much. Number one.
but somehow we cannot self-diagnose. So instead, like I thought about if it was my patient, I wouldn't have told them go get melatonin. I would examine what's going on in your life, make some changes. I didn't do none of that. I went to the store and got me some melatonin gummies, and I was like, okay, this gonna do it. I took one vacation and I haven't had sleep problems.
See,
Like I have had
see,
zero sleep issues. I
you needed a break. You
needed a
needed a
break.
break. Yes. Yeah. I'm telling you, like we will get so dumb so fast. Be like, it has to be this differential diagnosis. I think I've added these to the top three differentials. And girl, it was stress.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh gosh, yeah. So that's an amazing story. I think you have such a powerful journey just because your first two properties, like you said, were creative, right? You did things
Mhm.
that I didn't even know were possibilities straight out the
Girl, I
bat.
didn't know either. That's why I used to tell everybody about it.
Yeah.
They thought I was the broken record.
Yeah. And then you use that to leave medicine to
Yeah.
hire.
Yeah. It wasn't that long around this time that I was telling you about where I was a patient in the ER. That had to be like probably late summer, maybe beginning of fall. I can't remember the exact dates because clearly I was in like a weird tailspin at that time. Like also around that time, I literally would be driving into work and park in the parking garage and I would have to amp myself up. I'm like, you can do anything for 8 hours. You can do like, or if it was a
Mhm.
10 hour, do anything for 10 hours. Like I never had to do that before. this was just like becoming a theme where I'm just like not my normal jolly self. I'm like a dork I am now, like laughing and joking with you guys. That's how I typically am. Or even my medical director, he was like, "Yeah, I'm noticing you're not your same like normal self." Like even he noticed it because he had been working with me for at a couple different sites for many years.
Mhm.
And so it was around that time, probably like maybe some weeks or maybe a couple months later after that time when I was a patient in my own ER, where I just had this moment, like a come to Jesus type moment. I was thinking to myself, okay, I've turned my liabilities into assets. Like I paid off my car. I had, and I'm reducing my expenses. So it was still not an asset because it wasn't making money. I wasn't like renting it out or anything, but I had reduced my expenses because I had paid off my car. I had also turned my liabilities and assets in that instead of staying in my food downtown in a harbor apartment, I moved and bought another property. And that's a whole nother story on how I bought that property, girl. I ain't paid much money on with for that one either. But I bought a 2-unit row home. And I did this thing that people call house hacking, where I live in the upper 3-bedroom apartment and rent out the lower one. So the lower rent paid for all of my mortgage plus. I was living for free. My car was paid off. I was already believing God for student loan forgiveness. So I applied for PSLF. So I knew that was going to happen for me quicker than I expected it to. And so I was thinking to myself, I have my rental income coming in because by that time I had bought several properties. I was buying like on average about one a year. Some years I would buy none, some years I would buy two. I may
Girl.
skip another year and then I would buy like three. So I knew that I had enough rental income that it wouldn't pay for my whole like lifestyle. But if I just added a couple $1,000s to it, that I would be good. I'm having this conversation I'm having with you in my head at that time, just randomly. And then literally 2 days later, I resigned because I was like, why am I here? Why am I doing this?
Yeah, I think that's such a good red flag too, is the pep talk. Because I too have given myself that pep talk of like, I can do anything for a finite period of time. And I think that is a good marker for something is broken here and needs to be addressed, and not
Yeah.
in a way of I can force myself through it in chunks.
Yeah, and that's sad, but that's where I was, and I didn't like it, and I think that's why me and my medical director were having that conversation where he was like, "Yeah, I have noticed the difference because I didn't like feeling like that because
Mhm.
my patients are going to feel that whether I'm like saying something rude to them or not, which wasn't. But even if I'm not, I'm also not as open and warm."
Yes, yes. And then I like how you just slid in that little extra property that you procured either for you
But
or living
I
rent
have
free.
every property has its own stories, but to be quick on that one, I learned about the local grants, and that's something that you and I have coached on because I'm really big on finding free money. Just because we doctors and we have it, don't mean we need to spend it. Okay, so I had found a
Extra
local
money,
grant, right? That I was able to get $18,500 from that organization and the city. They would match money together. And if you bought in particular neighborhoods where I was, that was around your employment, because it was, they were trying to get more people to move into the city.
honey.
And so with that grant, and number one, I was already using a loan product that allowed me to only put 3% down. And so the grant, once I got that grant, because of the cost of the property, it covered almost all of that down payment. I think I probably bought the closing table maybe a little less than $6,000.
Yeah. Oh, I'm loving these amounts. Can I ask you how many properties you have purchased?
Yeah, so I purchased 10. I've sold two,
Wow.
so I have eight I still have that I own by myself. And then
Ooh.
as the years started going by, I started doing things like passive investments with other people. So I'm a like a partial owner of a block of mixed use development of residential, like a block of residential and commercial properties together. And I also have a little small ownership in a boutique hotel because of my passive investments. But the ones that I own by myself are just those core eight that I have left.
Not just the core eight. Some of us trying to get number one, child. We're trying to get to one. Okay.
You
Oh,
will.
I will. I meant the rest of the people listening. I will. I'm on the trajectory. Okay. For sure. I know I'm getting my one because we already in process, but
And
I know
is,
for
and
the rest
is.
of the people listening to the podcast, if you trying to
Mhm.
get your one, Lee, this is
Or
good.
a few. Yeah, a few.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
want
right.
my
I want
people to
several.
do above and beyond what I've done.
Mhm.
And to be clear, like I also help people who have more than me because what I've learned is, and this is actually a gem that for people who may be suffering from like imposter syndrome or anything of the I used to shy away from talking about like the numbers in my portfolio and things like that because like there's so many people who are like, oh my God, I have 100 units, I have
Mhm.
40 doors, all these,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
hey, more power to you. But when I started networking and when I started having more free time and could interact with a lot of other real estate investors as I was learning, as I was like getting my framework together and making mistakes and learning new skills and interacting with people, I realized a lot of those people who have that many doors are only getting $100 and $200 per door, sometimes are losing money per door. And so I was like, we don't do that over here because over here it's nothing for me able to be able to get $1,500 per door, 2,000. And I'm talking about like net, not gross. I have clients who are getting $3,500 per door.
Yes.
It's possible depending on your exit strategy. And so once I realized that, like that compare and despair thing that I had going on, that's when I started sharing more about like my not necessarily just my number of doors, but like my cash flow and profit per door, because I still have the opportunity to help those people who may even have more properties for me than I do because they don't know how to buy them in a way where they can save tens of thousands of dollars. And they also don't know how to buy them or utilize exit strategies in a way where they can get hundreds or thousands of dollars more per door in with their exit strategy. So just wanted to add that in there too about for anybody who could be listening who has a way that they can serve people or help people and they're like shying away from it because they think that is a small thing. Just really reflect and really think over that. The more you interact with people, you'll realize that you probably do have something to offer. I know we weren't talking about that, but I'm a
That's a
coach at
very good
heart, so I
message.
have to.
It's a good message, right? Because it's not about the number. Like it comes right back to what we said just before, which is it's about being profitable. We just want to earn money. We want to and get the freedom that that money affords us. So the ability to walk away from a job that sucks, the ability to be flexible or to live rent free or to lower our spend or whatever it is, there's so many things that are tied to money. And really,
Mhm,
having that opportunity to share a message that allows people to do that same thing is so
mhm,
powerful. People forget the
mhm,
power that they have in their story and in their offer, like you're saying.
mhm,
And
mhm.
we don't put our solutions out into the world because we feel
Yeah.
that maybe it's not good or people won't appreciate it or whatever the things that our amygdala is telling us. But
Mhm.
in actuality, I was just curious the number, like the how many properties you bought. Because in my mind, I'm like, you've used so many different methods
I
that,
did.
right, that all created profit, which goes to show that A, there's so many ways to be profitable in real estate, and B, that it doesn't matter how you're coming to the table, there's a solution for you.
Right, exactly, which is another reason why I was able to, like once I was like, "Let me remind myself who I am," after, doing that compare and despair that I was doing, not only was I thinking about, like we just said, about the amount of net that I was bringing in per door compared to other people, but also, like you mentioned, I just forgot too, like all the different ways I knew how to buy. It's not even just the I knew how to save money, but I also knew there were so many tools in my toolbox. Like I've bought with creative financing. I've bought with, not to be too technical, like seller financing, subject to, I've bought with traditional financing. I've bought with hard money. I've used private money. You can use your tools that are in your toolbox, right? So I think that was another good thing that you brought up that I had forgotten about.
Yes, we've already mentioned so many different examples that I'm sure lots of us didn't know were possible, right? On how to obtain different real estate properties, right? So I love this. This is where we are in your journey. You've already purchased
You
several
know what,
properties.
Shanika?
Yeah,
I hate to interrupt you, but
no, go
as
ahead.
you're talking, I want to double click on something else that you
Sure.
said because you were like, it's just about making extra money. And so for me, I used it to get free from work, but I just want to double click on what you were saying about what you can do with that money. It just depends on what you need.
Mhm.
I've heard of people and have helped people bring in income just so they can pay another bill. You're bringing in rental income that is paying your student loan bill for you. Or you
Mhm.
want to have maybe not even something like a student loan bill, which is a necessity, but something like for fun, like you want to like an extra fun car. And you don't feel comfortable using your earned income. You feel like, man, I don't necessarily deserve to use my earned income for this, but hey, let me go buy an asset that is cash flowing, that is a producing asset, and take the profits from that asset and now use that to go buy that toy. Um, and so it's just like a shift in perspective of what you can use real estate for, which is just different for everybody. And the beauty in that is that you're not using your earned income to do it. So if you want a toy, if you want to cover an extra bill, or you need to cover an extra bill, you don't necessarily have to go and work a shift. Like we've had conversations before about like my thoughts on using the work of your body, like the work of your hands, getting up to clock in to cover something. And I just want people to know, or maybe just leave a little, just marinate on this idea that you don't necessarily have to get up and go work extra to pay for something new or different that you want to enjoy or invest in.
Yes, because we are tired. Okay. Work front loaded the effort, front loaded the time, front loaded the money to work in this
Yes,
where they continue to want you to abuse your body for more coins. And so we are definitely looking for solutions where we can earn more. That's it.
absolutely.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Okay. So you have been purchasing properties. You were able to resign from being an EM physician. This is where we are in your story. So tell us what's next, what happened next, or yeah.
Yeah, so after I resigned, my goal was to, because remember I told you guys like I had just like did the numbers in my head and I was like, oh man, I can live this same comfortable lifestyle because I'm living a lifestyle where I'm a homeowner, I have a luxury vehicle that's paid off, I travel when I want to, I'm traveling out of the country, things like that. I have a personal trainer, I was paying someone like for my meals, like nothing, like I didn't have a chef, y'all. I don't want to I don't want it to sound too crazy. I didn't
That
have a
does
chef,
not
but I was
sound
paying like
crazy.
a
That
meal
sounds
prep
like goals.
person. I was paying a meal prep person, a young lady in the area who was like doing prepared meals. So just thinking about my lifestyle, right? So I was like, okay, hopefully I could continue to live this same lifestyle. And so when I was looking at the numbers, I was like, okay, I can do that with my rental income plus a couple $1,000s extra. So my plan was okay, I will never work a full-time job again, but I
Okay.
was going to stay in medicine. I was thinking about doing a utilization review or something like that,
Mhm.
going into doing part-time core medicine, maybe insurance companies or something like that. So that was my plan. My goal was that was like in a September when I resigned to just enjoy the end of September and maybe part of October and just enjoy just the me putting on my big girl panties and, and taking that step. And then late October and November, moving forward with learning how to write a corporate resume and changing my academic portfolio and CV into, because I've only worked in academics, I'm a trained educator, changing all that into a resume and applying for these part-time jobs that are medicine adjacent. And so that did not happen. Unfortunately, I had a death in the family, had a sick family member who just made a turn for the worse during that time. And so that whole plan just went out the window. And
Mhm.
my family member ultimately passed away that December. And so then I was like in full on bereavement and a little bit of depression as well. Once I came out of that, I started feeling a little bit closer to my old self, maybe around January. And I started refocusing on, okay, what am I doing? But in that whole time, I had finished my contract or finished the rest of my contract, resigned, had stopped working. It had been a few months of not working, no income. But of course, thank God I had my rental income. And then just money was just coming to me from random places too. Like, look at God. So I finally was like, okay, am I going to be applying to these corporate kind of jobs? And like things kept pushing me away from it. Like it kept being like little issues where it wouldn't work out when I was trying to get with a resume writer and different things like that. And then I kept getting a call to, it just seems like there were little signs. I kept getting a call to these people who wanted me to do the longitudinal consulting or real estate mentorship. And so after a while, I just stopped pushing it, stopped fighting it, and was like, okay, let me lean into the full time real estate, like consulting. I wasn't even really calling it coaching at that time. I think I still was like avoiding the word coaching at that time. And so I joined DCS and I learned how to properly talk to people, how to teach them or how to get across to them the ways that I can help them. And that was so helpful for me after investing in that type of support. And it was like the rest was history. I started connecting with so many of other like people like your listeners, a lot of physicians, other women professionals, and they were reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, can you help me?" And so I went from having a little depression, going through bereavement, not knowing what type of corporate medicine adjacent job that I was going to get, to pivoting in a matter of like weeks to full on full time business, as well as continuing to do what I had already been doing, which was I was self managing my properties. By that time, was an experienced like self property manager, and I still do that. Like I just put in a new set of tenants like 2 weeks ago. So still doing all of that stuff, but on top of that, this new full-time like real estate like coaching business. I guess that's what I do now still.
Yes. Well, first of all, sorry for your family member's loss, like your loss of
Thank
your
you.
family member.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
I actually think that's around the time that we met. Yes, I
Mhm,
remember that experience and you taking time to really process that, but
mhm.
also the blessing that exists for you to have the time.
It was
Sure.
I was so blessed, Shanika. For those who don't know either, I'm a full-on believer, so it don't take me but a second to start getting into preach mode, you guys, but hated to love it. But all glory be to God because again, I had already told you guys that one, I didn't even want to start taking my rental income as like income. Like I had never taken it as income. I was always putting it into my business account. But
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I can take it as income so that I can live. But my goal was to really not do that. Really and truly, like I was gonna work part time so that I still wouldn't really have to take much of that income. And I still didn't really have to take it as income. During that season where I just was not working and not having a plan to work, I was just like in this. I barely really remember that time, to be honest. I was just like not combing my hair. So I know I was like a little bit depressed as well. And like I would get a message like, "Oh yeah, you did this passive investment in this deal with us. We just sold the property. We're going to send you a return. Can you send me your account number so we can send you your investment return?" Like it was like stuff like that, Shanika. It
That's
was just
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. And
God is so good.
I love that. I think like when you are in a place of when you are like just on the trajectory of setting yourself up in a certain way, I think just circumstances, blessings, like all those things flow in that direction because that's what you've declared over yourself and over your
Mhm,
life. And I
mhm,
think like
mhm.
people underestimate the power of intention and word,
Yes,
like all
yes.
of so I do believe like when you start to make those shifts, when you commit yourself in that way, things will happen for you, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So I
Yeah.
just and that's one of the principles about I think when it comes to coaching, especially us as doctor coaches, we are all essentially doing the same work. And that is
Mhm.
trying to get people to reclaim their freedoms, reclaim
Yes,
their sense of agency,
yes.
reclaim their power. And then whatever they choose to do with it, great. If you decide
Mhm.
to stay in medicine, great. If you decide to quit medicine,
Yes.
if you decide to take time off to appropriately treat yourself after a loss, fantastic. But the power of choice is the
Mhm.
ultimate thing,
That's it.
right?
That's it.
And so just that moment for you being able to step away, still have everything covered, allow yourself to heal and process, that is the type of freedom that I think all of our programs are feeding
Mm.
into.
Yes. Yes.
You don't have that when you're really working for someone else and you're at their mercy. Like you just don't have the option to walk away in that way.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
is what most of us are working
Mhm.
against because
Yeah.
we deserve to have healing time. We deserve to have
Yeah.
rest. We deserve to be taken care of when we need to be taken care of. Like we, especially as providers,
Mhm.
need to also be provided for.
Oh, oh, oh,
So
oh. The whole that's the whole episode, Shanika.
that is an episode. But yeah, I just think that what you're doing and the work that you're helping other doctors do purchase these properties, it's so much bigger in mission and vision than simply buying a property.
Ooh, you get it. And it's so funny because I keep being like, oh my God, Shanika, you get it. But of course you get it. You are a dynasty builder. You are one of us, right? You're in the community. But and the reason why I get so excited to hear you say that, one, because it's okay, I'm doing something right, because you get it. But two, two, a lot of people come to me and I notice that they are so confused. And I'm at first I was a little confused that they were confused because when they come to me, I'm asking them questions like they're saying things like, okay, I need help because I have a plan to buy 10 properties. And I'll be like, why? And they would be like, what do you mean why? And I'd be like, why? Like, why do you want or need 10 properties? And they were just like, because that's a good number. It just seems once I have that
Arbitrary.
amount, I should be putting in a lot of money. And then when I start talking to them about their life goals and their what I call their dynasty vision and what they want their life to look like and what they want their Mondays and Tuesdays to look like and what they want their Thursday evenings to look like and then what they would want to add to their family and how much would that cost. They would be so confused sometimes because they're like, I thought we were about to talk about real estate investing. I'm like, one,
We
I'm
are.
no smoke. I don't want any smoke to people who have courses, but one, I'm a coach, number one. So this, I'm not giving you cookie cutter information, right?
Mhm.
This is all individualized to you and your journey. And now I get it because I know I'm the odd bird in the family. So I was thinking about all this type of stuff when I became intentional about investing. And again, like I wasn't perfect. I didn't start off like I told you my story. I was not intentional about investing when I started, but when I did become intentional, I was thinking about all this stuff. Like the fact today is Monday and I don't have any coaching calls or anything because Monday is like my business Sabbath. Like I knew that I would have a day off, like whenever I could create my own schedule. Like I knew that's what my life was going to look like. And when other people come to me and I'm asking them those types of questions and they don't have an answer, I get it now. But when I first started connecting with people and having these introductory calls with them on how we're going to get them started in their own plan, they would be confused about the question. I would be confused why they didn't have an answer.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think people follow steps sometimes and they don't even understand why they're following the steps. I find that especially in medicine because we've been
Yeah.
following steps for so long,
Yeah, yeah,
all you do
yeah,
is move to the next thing, move to the next thing.
right,
And
right.
people, especially when they're working in academia, it's they'll just keep climbing the ladder.
Mhm,
And at some
mhm,
point, they're so beaten down by the ladder, by climbing, that, and they don't even recognize themselves or why they're there and what they're doing it for.
mhm,
So
mhm.
when you have
Exactly.
that conversation, like you're saying at the beginning of this program, you're having these conversations about what it is you want. People don't know.
Yeah, they're like, "What you mean? What do I want?"
They're like, nobody ever asked me.
I didn't know I can get what I want. Yes, you can.
Right. Yeah. And so that's one of the things I look forward to when I'm interviewing potential clients for the program
Mhm.
is that desire to get something. Like you don't have to know what it is. You could be like, I don't know what real estate option I want to do or whatever. I don't know. I just know that there's options and that I want
Yeah,
in. that for me, and I always have a hard time because I've been asked a couple times in the last month, what is it that you look for when you qualify people? And I'm like, it's like this thing. It's not just accepting your fate and being like, oh, maybe blah, blah, blah. Like it's really that drive of I
Something got to give.
I
We
gotta
got to do
find a
something
solution.
different.
Yes.
Yeah, so
And
we got to
and
do something
I
different.
and I have a reason why. And my reason is I'm tired of living this life. And I know if I continue, it's going to be damaging for me. Or
Amen.
time feels like it's running out and there's things I want to accomplish that I haven't been able to accomplish.
Amen.
I want to
Amen.
spend time with my family. Like they have reasons, right? And
Yeah.
so they may
Yeah.
not know the solution, but they are
Yes.
purposed.
Yes.
And I love working with those kind of clients.
Yes. No, I completely get that, Shanika. Like to to the point where I put that in my messaging to the people who are in my program, like when when you are feeling like, okay, they didn't accept my offer, or oh, this is taking a little bit longer to get this approval than I thought, when I can revert them back to their why or remind them of their why, that's like a North Star. It helps to keep you on track. And so I see why you and really I probably have the same subconscious exclusion criteria for my program, but I see why you wouldn't want to focus on working with people who are not at that point yet where they have an understanding of their why, because it's so necessary. It's a driver, it's a North Star. It helps to keep you motivated even when you may be in those period of days, or sometimes there might be a period of weeks where things are not going as quickly or as smoothly as you expect, because that is the reality of it. I never lie to people and tell them that it is going to be a super smooth process. Is it straightforward? Yeah, it's just points of data. It's a decision tree. But is it going to not evoke emotion? No, I can't. I can, and that's why I coach them. That's why it is a coaching program and not just a course. But that why helps to center you so well.
Literally is the reason to keep going and to keep doing things. And that's the same thing I think for us is we both have very concrete whys on why we've created these solutions for other doctors. And it's like for me, I'm like, I'm shifting medicine,
Come
right?
on.
Like people are feeling it's just a terrible burden trying to carry a system that's crushing you.
Mhm.
And we don't deserve that.
Yeah.
And also, we are not going to be good doctors if we're this unhappy. So for me, I'm like, everything I can do
Exactly.
to improve
Yes.
your situation means
Yeah.
that you are going to be that much better of a person, of a physician, of an anything. So that's
Right.
my reason is like much deeper than just getting you a different salary number. It's I want you to feel good about who you are, what you
Mhm.
do, how much you earn, because that translates into every other area of your life.
Yeah, no, yeah, I completely agree with that. It's been well over a year. Shoot, after this month, I'll be closer to 2 years than 1 year of me not seeing patients after I resigned. And wow, that's just crazy that it's been that long. But because I still want to keep up my license, I'm actually in the process of making sure that I can get credentialed so I can pick up 1 to 3 shifts a month so that I can maintain my license. But I started like getting like full. Sometimes it don't take me long to start getting full up in my spirit, because I was getting full a little bit earlier when you were having me to talk about my past story during that time of depression and bereavement. But sometimes even me thinking about going pick up shifts, I start getting like full up to here just in my spirit, thinking about how it will feel to walk in that ED for the first time because I want to, not because I have to.
Mm,
And like how the interactions with my patients are going to be different than like those days where I was like, okay, girl, you can get out this car, you can go in there. Those days where I was amping myself up. Like sometimes I just get full thinking about that. You know what I mean?
absolutely. I know what you mean. The choice, it's all about the power of choice.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, you're shifting medicine. I love that because, like you said, we have similar missions. Like for me, my mission is I want people to be free. Like I want you to be liberated. People are like, oh, what do you do? I don't say, oh, I just help people buy property. I'm like, I help people get free through ownership. Like
Yeah.
the end point for me is not the property, even though that, hey, it's great to have that asset or those assets. But for me, it's the freedom. Like
Yes.
when people ask me who I am, I'm like, I am a free Black woman.
Mm. You don't make me throw something. I don't want to mess up this recording, but I'm about to throw
That's how
something.
I feel, Shanika. I'm like, I'm a free Black woman.
Ugh. Can you imagine?
People try to like, especially when I was like looking into, okay, I'm make sure I get credential with this locals company so I can have these options of when I can pick up shifts. And then they're like, oh, can you send this and this? And then can you get this in? And I'm just like, I don't move in that type of energy. So sorry. And it just reminds me, like, I'm a free Black woman.
Yes, the weight that is just lifted off of you when you are not just constantly being pushed and pulled and tugged and prodded is just priceless.
Yeah, you have to ask me a different question, Shanika, because I'll, like I said, I'll start getting full and then I want to run around the building.
Yeah, we about to do a little dance up in here. Clap and
Right.
sing. I feel it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so tell us about your existing program, because I'm sure at this point people are like, how do I become a free Black woman? They are
Yeah.
talking about they just sitting here having a good casual conversation, but they ain't giving us the tea.
Yeah, because we'll just be having a casual conversation because we really are friends like that. Because I've been I forgot we on the podcast, girl.
Girl, yes.
But yeah, so my program, like you mentioned earlier, my business is in totality a wealth building brand. It's called Capital Dynasty. And arm of that business is my coaching and education, which is the Dynasty League. Dr. Daa'iyah's Dynasty League, also known as D3L. So it is a program that is either 6 months or 12 months. The 6 month program focuses on helping people. I actually call that enlightenment. Like I call that 6 month period enlightenment because it really opens people's eyes to like what's it like, oh my God, I didn't know that was possible. Oh my God, that's available. Oh my God, I can do that. Who knew? So I call that
Yes.
enlightenment. But the
Big
value
love.
proposition of that is by the end of that, you'll be under contract, right? And so the latter part, I call that affluence because that other 6 months, that full year program, is focused on not only getting you to become enlightened and you getting under contract on your property. The affluence part is really focused on helping you to become work optional, which is that
Mm,
time,
mm,
affluence that I value so much. And so that part of the program is okay, you already know the new information. We need to like, we're not learning a lot of new skills and concepts and frameworks because you've gotten that down pat. Now we're focused on being super strategic on like your individualized way that you're going to become work optional. And so I do that through like weekly coaching. So I see people for hour to hour and a half at a time in a small group setting. We start off one on one so we can really get it individualized to you. And then we move into a small group setting. And then sometimes I know, especially with real estate, things move quickly. So not only can people like see me in that live setting, but they also can be in my community where they can get coached on my Slack app and they can ask questions and then they can bounce things off of the other ladies in the community. Um, during that time in between their live sessions. And I paused for a second when I said other ladies in the community because I don't like I've been getting a little pushback from some guys. They were like, "Are you be ignoring us, men?" So there are men in my program. They're usually partners to the ladies in my program or the spouses. I do take men, I will coach men, but anybody who works with me, whether you are a male, whether you are not a Black woman, you have to understand that I create my spaces. They are curated for Black women. So I welcome everybody, but I am completely focused on making Black women comfortable and the space is curated for that.
yes. Ugh, girl, stop talking dirty to me. Oh, enlightenment and affluence and comfortable
Yeah.
spaces for Black women. It's like my love language. I'm getting hot. Okay. So
You
good.
better stop, girl. You better
Girl.
stop.
They're like, these two fools are carrying on.
I know.
Listen, we will have a good time. Okay.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's just that the fact that I don't have the cognitive load that I had
Mm, yes.
now 3 years ago. I'm trying to remember the timeline, 2+ years ago that I had when I was working in academic. And again, I don't want no smoke from the people. I am not anti-work. I'm not anti working as a physician. I'm not anti academics. I am just anti doing it because you have to, not because you want to. That's what I'm anti. But back during that time when I was working in academics, I was seeing patients as an ER doctor. So I was working nights, weekends, holidays. When other people were sleeping, I was taking care of so many amazing patients who like literally would send me cards. I was blessed to be able to save people's lives who they come in with their heart stopped, but they're not breathing. But at the same time, I also was dealing with people who were yelling at me, cursing at me, spitting on me, throwing their defecation at me, well, not at me, but just in the space in the ER, in addition to leaving that and then maybe sleeping a few hours and then going and preparing a lesson plan or a sim scenario and going to deliver that scenario to my residents. Which again, teaching my residents, that was like my greatest joy ever of all of the years that I worked in academics. But putting it all together, it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And so now just want to bring this full circle because we do laugh and kiki a lot, but I am able to do that and I feel so lighthearted because I don't have that cognitive load that I had before.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the difference.
The spirit
And
change.
the way that I can think about serving people, I even am more creative because of it. That's
Yes.
why I can think about concepts like enlightenment and affluence and the Dynasty League and think about my branding and making sure it communicates the proper things that I want people to understand that they can, the transformations that they can get from working with me. I'm able to think more vividly and vibrantly and be more creative because of that freedom.
Yes. Oh, so good.
The value proposition of freedom, there's so many points of value that I can't even name.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people don't even think about the reduction in that cognitive load. I didn't think about it until I'm living in it. But before I didn't even, I was just thinking I would be able to not have to work at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
But just this extra, just like lightheartedness and mental clarity, and to be able to, there were things that I like to do that I didn't even know that I want to invest time in because I didn't even have the cognitive ability to even consider it.
Or no time, no mental space, no bandwidth, nothing. Just dry. Oof.
And so that's why I say I get it now when people are like, I don't know what I want. Yeah, because they ain't had time or energy to even consider it.
Yes. Yes. That's what I always say. You don't need to know what you want. I get it. It's just there's too much happening.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want you to have a strong feeling about why you
Mm-hmm.
need something different. And yeah, we could figure out the other stuff. And it's going to change. That's the thing. When you start having freedom, like you said, you discover things about yourself. You've already, like you just mentioned, you learned that there are things that you didn't even know you wanted to do or invest in. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I think I do want to learn a couple languages. I didn't even consider that before.
Right.
I didn't know I was interested in that. Like just different little small things, just like passions that come up or interests. Didn't have the cognitive ability to even consider that before. Wouldn't have crossed my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. So now people know your story. They know all the things that you can help them accomplish.
Yeah.
Primarily the freedom, the reduction, like you said, in the cognitive load, the ability to choose how and when you work and where you work. All of these things become choices. There's just so much power in that. Where can they find you so they can get some of this?
Yeah, yeah. So if you are you identify as a Black woman doctor, and not just like physician, but like doctor, pharmacist, dentist, vets, join me in the Sister Docs and REI private Facebook community. I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes.
Yes, I will.
Also, I spend the most time probably on Instagram. I'm in that generation where I don't understand some of these social media platforms, but I do understand Instagram. I'm on there. And my name is Capital Dynasty is my business name, Capital. Or you said I didn't have to spell it, but Capital Dynasty, capital with L, not an OL. And then I'm on LinkedIn, Daa'iyah Cooper, MD. And yeah, the spelling my name, I'm sure, will be in the show notes. And
It'll be
so
in the
those are the
title,
places
the show
you can,
notes, everywhere.
yeah, find me the most. In there, you can find me doing many things, just sharing with you some of the perspectives that me and, of course, a lot of my clients didn't realize were actually truths. So I'm sharing some new and different perspectives about real estate investing and how to buy and ways that you can buy. So that's usually what I'm doing on my socials. I'm also sharing sometimes real-time stories of like wins that my clients may have, and just like new things that are just popped into my brain of, man, I love sharing how they've had that shift in perspective, and they were able to make money from it. So I'm usually doing that. And then oftentimes, like I mentioned earlier, I'm sharing some type of workshop where you can take away some actionable steps and items at the end of the workshop or the challenge or the summit.
Awesome. I love it. I'm sure that people listening will come and at least listen to what's going on, see the things that other doctors are doing, that these are very much reasonable outcomes for you, possibilities for you. And yeah, we're all trying to escape the crush. So this is a beautiful way to do that. And I'm so grateful for your time and for your sharing your story and your vulnerabilities and sharing some of your parts of your story that are obviously precious to you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am so appreciative of you and your platform and what you're doing, and letting doctors, and I'm sure other medical professionals who are listening to your platform, just letting them know what's available to them, what's out there for them, and that people see them. People like us, we see you, we hear you, we understand you, and we're here for you. So I just appreciate you, like, because it takes effort to put out this type of platform. So that does not go unnoticed, and you're appreciated for that as well.
Thank you. It is my absolute pleasure because I think even if it impacts one person, it's absolutely worth it. All right, y'all. So we are going to include all of these details for finding Dr. Daa'iyah in the show notes. You'll be able to click, find her program. I implore you to join this Facebook group so you can hear what is being talked about. These are the rooms we need to be in. So please join. I am excited for my own continued journey with Dr. Daa'iyah, and I will keep y'all posted. So that'll be fun. All right, y'all, we are out. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. And what I want you to do next is link us everywhere you can. Instagram at The Black Doctor. Just become part of our collective. I want you here. Thanks. Until next time. Bye.